Okay, measuring length. Our objective for this video, we want to use proportions to convert between units of length. Now, when you do conversions between a variety of measurements, there are two ways to do it. One way is to use proportions. The other way is to use what's called dimensional analysis. We're going to focus on using proportions. All right, so what do we know? Well, we already know what a proportion is. A proportion is an equation that shows that two fractions or ratios are equal. And the beauty of that is when you have a proportion, when you have two fractions or ratios that are equal, their cross products are equal, and that can help us solve for an unknown. Okay, so proportions are very useful whenever you have a known relationship between two numbers. You can then use the known relationship, the known ratio or fraction, to solve for an unknown, okay, using proportions and cross products. Let's take a look at common units, both the English system and the metric system for length. Okay, in our English system, our base length is generally considered to be at the foot. Okay, if we want to go smaller than the foot, we break feet into inches, and that's our small unit for measuring smaller things. And we want to go larger, and we get into miles. We want to measure distances, etc. Of course, we also know that there are 3 feet in a yard, so sometimes you see yards used as well. But generally, these are the 3 most common for the English system. In the metric system, well, their base unit is the meter. And you want to go smaller, and you either choose to go with centimeters, or for really tiny, go with millimeters. Centi, of course, means hundredth, 1/100th of a meter. And milli is a prefix for thousandth, so 1,000th of a meter. And if you want to go large, again, like distances, we go to kilometers, and their prefix kilo is 1,000, so times 1,000. So a kilometer is 1,000 meters. So just some base units. Let's take a look at doing some conversions, using proportions. Okay, our first example, we want to convert 78 inches to feet, and we know that there are 12 inches in a foot. Okay, and we're always going to know the conversion factor in order to do this. So our known relationship is the fact that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. That's a known relationship, so I could write that as a ratio or a fraction. And then over here, I'll use this to solve for an unknown in the other ratio. Well, I want to convert 78 inches to feet. Well, in this known relationship, I chose to put the inches in the numerator. So I'll copy that by putting inches in the numerator. And the unknown is how many feet is that? So I have a known ratio. That's my conversion factor here. And I have an unknown ratio, which is what I'm looking to convert. And again, we have a proportion. We can use our cross products, cross multiply and divide. And we have that the number of feet, 78 inches, is equal to 6.5 feet. Okay, you can either use the single mark here or the abbreviation FT or even FEET if you want to. So there's how we're going to use proportions to do our converting between units of length. Let's do one more, which has us dealing with the English system and the metric system, converting between the two. Okay, 125 miles is how many kilometers? So here's the person that comes in from Europe into the U.S., and they're told it's 125 miles to the next destination, and the European person is used to kilometers. And so that person might say, well, how many kilometers is that? That's more what I'm used to. I understand kilometers. I don't really understand miles. Well, here's the conversion factor. Here's the known relationship. Okay, so our known relationship is that 1 mile is equivalent to 1.6 kilometers. That's our known relationship, our known ratio. Okay, well, our unknown, we have 125 miles and we don't know the kilometers. Well, in this ratio, I put miles in the numerator. So I will continue that by putting 125 miles in the numerator, match up the units, and I want to know how many kilometers is that. Again, matching up the units, I have a proportion. One fraction equals another fraction, so I can cross multiply and divide. And when I do that, I come up with 200 kilometers. So for the person coming in from Europe who sees 125 miles to the next destination, to do the math and to say, oh, that's 200 kilometers, the person from Europe has a much better idea of how far that is because they're used to kilometers. So there you have it, a little bit of work with measuring length and converting between units of measure using proportions.